Let's take a look at adding and subtracting polynomials. When we're adding and subtracting polynomials, the key piece to remember is that really what we're going to be doing is combining like terms. So we have to remember, what are like terms? What are things that I can combine? And like terms are things that have the same variables to the same powers. So for example, x squared and 2x squared would be like terms. If we threw a y on there, then they're no longer like terms. They have to have the same variables to the same power. In the same way, if we had a 3x over here, that would not be a like term with either of those as well, because that's just to the first power. This one's x squared, it's got a y with it. This one is x squared. So if we can remember that, we're going to be in great shape as we look at polynomials. So when we're adding two polynomials together, like in this first example, we can really just forget the parentheses and just look for those like terms, things that we can combine. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to underline the things that I can put together. I notice here I have a cb squared, and I also have a cb squared over here. So I can combine those things. I have minus cb squared and 3cb squared. That would be 2cb squared. Now, another error that I sometimes see is that people want to change that to be like c squared b to the fourth power. Well, we should really treat those almost like a label there. And when we're adding them together, it's like we have -1 of those cb squareds, and we have 3 of those cb squareds. Then I add those together, I end up with 2 of those. In the same way, if I had -1 apples and 3 apples, I would end up with +2 apples. Okay, so then we've got a 2b here, and I've also got minus 3b here. So combine those two things, and I have -3. Another piece of this, sometimes people get confused as we see 3c minus 3b. Well, remember that minus is the same thing as plus a negative. So we could rewrite this as 3c plus -3b. That would be the same thing. So we're going to keep that minus sign, or that negative, with the term that follows it as we simplify. Okay, finally we have minus 14c there, put 3 under there, and plus 3c. Combine those two, we end up with -11c. -14c plus 3c. Then I look through here, nothing else I can combine, so that's it. That one is simplified as much as I can be. Let's take a look at this next one. In this one, again, it's addition, so I can just forget the parentheses and just look for those like terms. And I'm going to try and write this one in standard form, meaning I'm going to give the powers from greatest to least, because they're all a's here, I notice. Well, the largest power of a that I see is this one right here, so that'll be my first term, minus 4a to the 5th. Then take a look at what else we've got. Hey, there's one. We've got 4a to the 4th, so plus 4a to the 4th. Then, let's see, a to the 3rds. Hey, there's one. And there's another one over here. So 4a to the 3rd plus another a to the 3rd. We've got a total of 5 of those. So 5a to the 3rd. Then, last thing I see, we've got minus 9a squared and minus 11a squared. Combine those two, I would have minus 20a squareds. Then that one is in standard form, and there's nothing else I can simplify because they're all different. There's no like terms, meaning all the variables are to different powers, so I can't simplify that. Alright, now let's go down here. In this case, we're subtracting polynomials. We've got this whole polynomial minus this whole thing. And that subtraction makes a very key difference. We need to take that into account in this entire polynomial. So what we're going to do is we're going to distribute that through to each piece that makes up that polynomial, like so. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. Minus 3p plus pm minus m squared. Then negative 1, we can think of it as negative times that 2m squared is going to be negative there. Negative times a negative gives me a positive 13p. And then finally, negative times a negative gives me a positive 5pm. Then, again, it just becomes a matter of looking for those like terms. I'm going to start with the m squareds here. We've got a minus m squared and a minus 2m squared. That would give us equals minus 3m squared. Then let's see, we've got pm's. We've got pm right there and 5pm right there. Remember, if there's no coefficient written, there's always a 1. So there's 1pm plus 5pm is 6pm. So plus 6pm. Then finally, we've got some p's. Minus 3p and plus 13p. Combine those two and I would have plus 10p. Alright, and as I look at that, nothing else I can combine, so we're all set. Let's take a look at one more example here. Again, we're subtracting, so what we need to do is distribute that negative through our second polynomial here. So we'll take care of that first by rewriting the whole thing. So it's ag to the third power minus g squared plus 2ag to the third power minus times that positive, so that's 3a cubed g, then minus times that plus, so that would be minus g squared, minus times that minus makes this plus, so 4ag. Okay, now let's take a look through here and see what we've got going on. Well, let's take those, how about the g squared terms first. We've got minus g squared here, minus g squared there, so that's going to give us minus 2g squareds. Then, let's see, what else do we have going on? Well, we've got a ag to the third. Here's another ag to the third. So I'm going to combine those two. So we've got 1 there, 2 there, for a total of 3. So plus ag, oops, 3ag to the third. 2 and 1, so that's 3. Then, as I look through here, ooh, this is a to the third g, so that's a little bit different. Be careful, again, remember the variables have to be to the same power. Same variables to the same power. So it appears there's nothing else I can combine, so I'm just going to bring along those other pieces. So 3a to the third g, and then plus 4ag. Alright, so adding and subtracting polynomials, the key is combine like terms. Remembering that like terms are simply variables. It has to be the same variable to the same power. And if we're subtracting those polynomials, we have to remember, distribute that negative through, and then we go ahead and combine. I hope this was helpful. Keep working hard on your math, and I know you'll do great.